now we're going to move on to hear from somebody also very inspirational, Deborah Sturdy, who is Chief Nurse for Adult Social Care. Deborah Sturdy, OBE, I should say, Chief Nurse for Adult Social Care at the Department for Health and Social Care, who will tell us about the opportunities working in care and how government is developing the care workforce. Deborah, welcome so much to the stage. Thank you.
It's really good to be here. This is my second speech of the day, so I hope I haven't kind of exhausted my voice on the last one. I was speaking to people in Bolton from London. So I'm really pleased to be here, and it's great to see young people, because you are the future of social care. You are the future of our country. So to be able to talk to you about a bit about my career and how I got here. I've been nursing for 43 years now. You're all supposed to shout out you don't look old enough, so you failed the first test. But I've been doing this and been very driven and passionate throughout my career. I'd always wanted to be a nurse from the age of, ever since I can remember. And the reason that I got into nursing older people, which has been my clinical specialty, and people with dementia. So Nanny Skanks is a very familiar character and has kind of followed me throughout my career, is because I just felt, as a student nurse, the experience I had, I always wanted to be that nurse. When I went onto my second clinical placement, I was so appalled at the way that older people were being treated in this particular unit I was working on. I went to my tutor and said, I think I've made a mistake. And he said, you've got two options here. You can stay and do something about it or leave. I thought, I'm going to stay and do something about that. So I was kind of hooked at the tender age of 18 about working with older people. And it was because of this kind of degrading way that people were treated. And this is back in the early 80s, so a long, long time ago. But it was my kind of drive then throughout those 3 years of training in Bristol. And I worked for a bit after I qualified there, and then off and did a specialist course in older people's nursing in Oxford and spent 2 years there. And then at the age of 24, which is incredibly young, it probably feels very old to you, but it is very young. I was a ward sister on an older people's unit and worked with a professor there that was very inspirational. And together we ended up running a unit for people living with dementia who had all sorts of acute health problems as well. Excuse me. So my career path was set. Is there some water? My career path was set, and off I went, and gradually kind of built my career up, taking another senior post and another senior post, but very much driven by the fact I wanted to make a difference. And that was my kind of passion about nursing, is how do you make it better for more people? And I decided then, kind of around the age of 30, to go off and do a master's degree full-time. And I funded myself through university by doing agency nursing. So I did lots of shifts, working at night duty in care homes at the weekend. So university in the week, and then we often worked at the weekends in care homes. And it was absolutely there that I got completely hooked on social care, because what I saw was some not great care, but some absolutely fantastic care by people who were often seen as second-class citizens in terms of nursing. It wasn't the kind of career route you should take. But I saw brilliant care, brilliant people, and really got hooked on it. So at the end of my university bit, got my master's, I went off and spent 3 years as a research nurse, working around the whole issue about social care, looking at assessment in particular. And that was part of an international collaborative. At the end of that, I went to work in the community and again ended up working in a joint post, so working in social care and with the NHS as well. And was very, very inspired by the people I met during that period of my career. And then had this fantastic opportunity offered to me. I went to work as the nurse advisor for older people at the Department of Health, and I spent 10 years there working on developing national policy. Excuse me. Sorry, just getting over a cold as well. So again, I think what it illustrates is the variety you can have in a career in social care. So, I came up through that nursing route, but there is so much that you can diversify in. And after that, I purely went and walked into the world of social care. full-time for the last part of my career in a variety of guises, working in a big care home provider with people, sort of supporting people living with dementia. I worked in a number of other settings as well. And my last clinical post, which was 2 years ago, I was the Director of Care at the Royal Hospital at Chelsea, so looking after veterans, so 300 older veterans there. And in that service we had all sorts of things. We had, supporting people in living kind of fairly independently to a care home on site, a GP practice and everything in between. So again, really great to be empowering people to kind of live their best lives. And I think that's the thing about working in social care that's so important. It's about enabling and helping people to live their best lives. And that kind of inspiration that you get from working with other people to make that real difference to people day in, day out. And I think for me, and again, the nanny skanks kind of recognising so much in that fantastic short kind of play, really, was that the thing I loved about working with people with dementia is that what I did today might not work tomorrow. So you're constantly challenged. Your approach today might need to have a bit different nuance, a slight different approach tomorrow. So again, that kind of being able to be adaptable and flexible and creative. And I can honestly say, in my hand on my heart, the best bits of my career have been in social care because I've laughed and laughed and laughed. I've worked with fantastic people. And as a team, you're working with people that you're trying to develop and you're trying to lead and you want to make, because you're all working together to make a difference, and real difference to people's lives. But it's great fun. It's enormous fun because you have flexibility and that kind of opportunity for creativity in what you do. So what we're doing, there's so many opportunities in social care. I think people often see it as just care homes, but in fact, it's much, much more than that. It's not only looking after older people, it's looking after younger people, people with learning disability. Again, some of the great things I get to do in this job is I go out on lots of visits to services. So again, meet people doing fantastic things within learning disability services as well. And it's not just going in as a nurse or a carer, which are, two obvious routes, but there are so many other opportunities like, developing quality pathways, being a quality manager, catering opportunities, being a maintenance person, being administrator, being the kind of lead on contracts, those managerial jobs. So it's not just clinical, there's a variety of things. And the many, many people that I've met over my career, when I meet people who started off as a care worker or as a laundry assistant, who are now the manager, or in some cases the CEO, the chief exec of a group of care homes, these are opportunities that are much, much bigger than just that direct care role. And I think the one thing that we're not good at in social care is actually going out and flying that flag and telling people that there is this plethora of opportunity and there's many pathways that you can follow. The other thing that I think is fantastic about social care, and it was just 2 seconds talking to Ed Balls then, is that we are, the government, we're investing in that kind of knowing that we need to develop people. So as you can come in as an entry level with no qualifications, but your pathways to develop into being a nurse associate or a registered nurse or an apprenticeship scheme or an apprenticeship scheme to be a social worker. One of my team, my last job, when we got her on a pathway and she's just about to finish. So there are so many things that we can do, and the government currently are investing more in that. We see that we need people coming in at that entry level with really fundamental qualifications, the care certificate. And for some of the people that we see, older people we see in care, working in care now, for some of them it's the first time they've ever academically achieved something. So, it's given people life chances and new opportunities. And recently, back last summer, I was up in Cumbria visiting a service there, and I spoke to 2 young people. One was a young woman who had been homeschooled from the age of 14 because she'd been bullied and just had lost her confidence completely. And her grandmother was in this care home. The fantastic care home manager kind of got to know over a time and brought her in to do some sort of voluntary work, supervised voluntary work. And she's now going on a pathway. She's got a job there. She's on a pathway which will lead her to be a registered nurse. And for that individual, that young woman, I don't think that would have happened perhaps elsewhere, because her confidence slowly built up in an environment that's not only supportive of the people we look after, but the people that actually work with us and alongside us. And I think it's those kind of stories that, for me, really illustrate the nurturing and the opportunity in social care, perhaps at a slightly different pace. It's not in that frenetic hospital. You know, I've done that stuff, and you know, I wouldn't choose to go back to it. So I think that we underestimate those real opportunities for young people coming into care who just might need a different kind of support to achieve and attain. So I really, you know, I think we need to be doing more on that. And I was also saying about the other thing for me is that how do we kind of galvanise and create that workforce for the future, which is something that I worry about a lot. And I think we need to tell our stories better, but I think we also, you know, need to be thinking about how we're going to invest in that future workforce. So how do we look at our current students that are going through not just nursing programs, but paramedic programs, and you know, people going through medical school? How do we get them to have an experience of social care so it makes it better for the future when we all work together? They need to, you know, those doctors in A&E need to understand what it's like living in a care home. So I think we're on a pathway to make that happen, and I was having a conversation about that yesterday with people who fund such things. So really important that we absolutely invest in that future. And I think the other thing is that opportunity to train and learn together. So I think, you know, not university is not for everybody. I did my master's much later in my career. And, you know, so it just gives people a different and a steadier path through. So I think, you know, what makes it attractive, it's a job that's inside most of the time. I know you do get out and do fun things. You're working in a team. It's active. I think that people do recognise the contribution of people. So listening to everybody's voice is important in the conversation, be that the cleaner, be that the chief executive, be that anybody else in between. So if you get good leadership, I think that will take us a long way through giving people that opportunity and really bedding it in. So put the adult social care website up there, because you can get lots of information in there about careers and career opportunities in social care. And I think one of the things that we're starting to see now is that kind of that movement from seeing social care as something that, oh, I'm not sure that's really what I want to go and work in the NHS. I think people are seeing it as a more attractive option. The other thing I think that we underestimate, that we don't play enough or put enough stall on really, is that community, you know, care homes, domiciliary care services, people living with learning disability are living in homes, you know, at the end of the road where I live. So it's kind of within our communities, and I think we need to do more about exploring and promoting actually you can work in your community, and communities are really important. And I think those placements, I think for young people, and not just young people in mainstream education, but people with special educational needs as well, to come into our services and us to support them and provide opportunity. And I think we're kind of getting to that point where we just need to invest in that, because as I say, as I started, you are actually the future. You know, as I edge towards the end of my career, it's people like you who are going to be looking after me. So I want to make sure that the people like you are as well trained and educated and have the requisite skills and that passion and drive for our future, or for my future actually. Be totally selfish about it. So the government's got a 10-year plan at the moment. It's about personalisation agenda. It's about how we give really personalised care to people. One size doesn't fit all. What I want to be different from what you want. All the nuances and the differences between everybody that we look after. Actually recognising that and being adaptable and flexible. And that means the workforce we need needs to be adaptable and flexible with it. And I think that, you know, I think for your generation, I think your kind of, the way that you will work will be very different. And I can see that starting to happen now, that people in their 20s want flexibility, they want more part-time working, they want portfolio, they want to do a bit of care, and they want to do a bit of something else. So I think services are going to have to adapt to what your aspirations are as much as what's needed alongside that. So I think we've got to do some more thinking about that, and it's certainly at the forefront of my thinking, is that what we've always done can't be about the future, because you know, you're not going to do what, you know, the kind of, you're not going to behave and you're not going to work in the way that probably I was doing 40 years ago, which when the world was very different, when I wouldn't have dared go off duty until the ward sister had dismissed me, or the charges had dismissed me and told me I could go home. I don't think we would see that today. Everybody would be saying, well, it's 4:30 and I'm off. That's not just true of everybody, but it's your expectations are different, and we need to be thinking about that. I think some of the things that we're doing around, you know, it's about recognition of our workforce. I think it's really important to celebrate people. So how we actually, you know, ensure that we're recognising people, that we're promoting this, and it's just fantastic. You know, Anita and Avnish today pushing this event on, actually seeing young people who've actually come to listen to what the possibilities are, is a fantastic start. And I think that the kind of opportunity around social media now to be sharing this event and what we're doing is really, really important. And I think, you know, it's a bit about just watching that sort of synopsis there of what care's like, you know, that intergeneration work. So that young and old bit is really important. And even way back when, in the olden days, when I was in the sixth form, we were doing that kind of social interaction with local older people within the kind of school area that I was in. So it is really important that we understand that generation. And I think we could also be doing that for people with learning disability as well. So I think that, you know, there's a lot of innovation going on. Again, your generation around technology, the opportunities for growing that, moving that whole agenda on care in the next 10 years' time is going to look very different from the way it is today. And when I think back to the way it was, you know, we've moved so far, but we've got a long way to go. So I think that we are on a journey about kind of creating that knowledge and skills framework, a national framework where we have people from novice right through to expert and everything along the way. I think that investment then around that entry level and getting people on those pathways about apprenticeships in all sorts of roles, not just clinical ones, gives a real opportunity. And I think that I see as a massive shift, I think, in political thinking about realising that social care is absolutely fundamental to making a success of the NHS. And we need people who are going to be driven and passionate, because you can't come into social care unless you're driven and passionate to make a difference. So I hope that today you will go away and reflect and just think about the opportunities that will be there for you in the future and your friends, and actually just be inspired to come and not only make the difference, but be the difference that we need to see. Thank you.